Acrocanthosaurus, the high-spined lizard. An apex predator, and a good one at that. Dun 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 dun. Watch out! Here comes the shark lizard, Carcharodontosaurus. Despite the name, this is a terrestrial animal, not an aquatic one. You can think of it as a land shark, well suited to catching large prey, with an incredibly muscular body and wickedly serrated teeth. Ceratopsians is without a doubt the most iconic dinosaur of the Triassic period. Just like how many Hollywood icons have left their handprints behind in concrete at the famous Chinese theatre, many fossilised footprints known as grelata have been attributed to Ceratopsians. It must have been quite a celebrity back in the day. Now this is an interesting fellow. This dinosaur is called Dinosaurus, a name meaning horrible hand. Its hands aren't actually horrible, mind you. Calling dinosaurs things like terrible or horrible is a trend that goes all the way back to Sir Richard Owen, who first coined the term dinosaur, which of course means terrible lizard. Dilophosaurus is such a gorgeous creature. Some paleontologists think the grasping claws and shape of its jaws made it well suited to hunting fish. Others argue that it was built for more terrestrial prey. In my experience, the distinction between surf and turf doesn't matter. They'll eat anything they can get their hands on. While Tyrannosaurus is widely considered the largest predatory dinosaur in terms of sheer bulk, it's not the longest of them. In that competition, it's Spinosaurus who reigns supreme. The youngsters on our keeper staff tell me that online dinosaur forums are rife with arguments about which of the two titans would win in a fight, the mighty T-Rex or the magnificent Spinosaurus. I've never really thought about it. The two would never have met during the Cretaceous. But now, after seeing them in the flesh, I wonder. The apex predator of the Nemegt Formation, Tarbosaurus batar. Fossils of this massive predator dominate dig sites in the Nebet, and no one is really sure why. It doesn't make sense that there'd be more Tarbosaurus prowling around than herbivores to feast on. Regardless, the wealth of fossil material we found of this dinosaur have made it possible to add it to our park. Ah yes, the Tarbosaurus, an apex predator of the Jurassic. As it turns out, there were many apex predators in the Jurassic living alongside Tarbosaurus. With so many large carnivores in one area competing for the same food, different species must have specialized in different prey. There it is, the one and only king of the tyrant lizards. Tyrannosaurus is as big as the movies, and yet somehow even scarier. Blink and you'll miss it. Here comes the speedy thief, Velociraptor. It's easy to call Velociraptor a cold-blooded killer, but they aren't cold-blooded. As an active predator covered in feathers, Velociraptor is able to regulate its own body temperature, the hallmark ability of warm-blooded animals. The name Apatosaurus means deceptive lizard, and I can't think of a more fitting moniker for a dinosaur with such a complicated history. When the man who discovered Apatosaurus in 1877 shipped fossils to both Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, he inadvertently caused a chain reaction, leading to one of the craziest, most heated eras in fossil collecting history, the Bone Wars. Now, I've seen skeletons of Argentinosaurus before, but nothing can prepare you for the sheer immensity of this dinosaur in the flesh. Hatchlings are absolutely puny by comparison. Without the protection of enormity, young Argentinosaurus are extremely vulnerable, so adults compensate by having as many babies as possible to increase the chances that one of them will reach adulthood. Quantity over quality. You can't get a much more classic dinosaur than Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus is a sauropod, a type of herbivorous dinosaur with a tiny head at the end of a long neck. The largest animals to ever walk on land were sauropods, but not all of them were so gargantuan. For instance, Europasaurus grew just over 6 meters long, which, to be fair, is still very large. That sound you're hearing isn't thunder. It's the earth-shaking stomp of a brontosaurus. These dinosaurs have been shaking the big screen for over 100 years, starting with one of the first ever animated films, Gertie the Dinosaur. Gertie was never the best behaved dinosaur, so hopefully we won't have as much trouble trying to keep this brontosaurus in line. There it is, Carmarosaurus, the star of the Morrison Formation. Don't let its peculiar mouth scare you. The long chisel-like teeth may look like a carnivore's, but they are actually much better adapted to rip coarse leaves from tree branches. Although, to be fair, we haven't really put the theory to the test. Plateosaurus represents an incredibly ancient group of dinosaurs that predates the huge sauropods we all know and love. The earliest relatives of the sauropods are often called the prosauropods, but Prosauropoda isn't an accepted taxonomic group nowadays. Instead, Plateosaurus and its relatives are called basal sauropodomorphs. Still, I've found that most paleontologists know what you mean, regardless. Ankylosaurs are built like tanks, and none of them more so than the mighty Ankylosaurus. It is massive, over 6 meters long, and has a series of bony osteoderm armour embedded in its skin like chainmail. It's always a pleasure to run into a fellow Brit so far away from home. Meet Solidosaurus, an early armoured dinosaur from England and Ireland. The armour pieces on armoured dinosaurs are more accurately called osteoderms, a word that literally means bone skin. Despite being named after the ferryman of the underworld from Greek mythology, Charonosaurus is not known for delivering souls to the afterlife. I've seen the look in the eyes of a hungry Charonosaurus before, and it's almost like they're contemplating a new career path. No, sir, you aren't taking me across the river Styx today. Go and eat your ferns. A Dryosaurus. Quite elegant, don't you think? They're especially cute as babies when they have big eyes and stubby noses, just like a puppy. Found all over Western North America, Edmontosaurus is the textbook definition of a hadrosaur. Hadrosaurs are commonly referred to as duck-billed dinosaurs. But don't let that catchy moniker fool you. These dinosaurs lived on land, not in water. Iguanodon, one of the first dinosaurs to be formally named. Reconstructions of this animal have changed dramatically over the years, from a giant rhinoceros-like reptilian beast to the beautiful animal you see before you now. It really makes you wonder, what will paleontologists discover next to fundamentally change the way we view other dinosaurs? Lambeosaurus, a crested hadrosaur from the late Cretaceous. Hadrosaurs are commonly called duck-billed dinosaurs, after the toothless beak at the front of their mouths. But they aren't completely toothless. Behind the beak are dense concentrations of teeth that are continually replaced, sort of like a shark. If sharks were cows, that is. This little cutie is Laelanosaura. I often hear parents begging us to open a petting zoo, if only because their children won't stop asking to pet the Laelanosaura. Personally, I've found these dinosaurs to be rather skittish, so I don't think they take well to flocks of children grabbing at their tails. Muttaburrasaurus is the official fossil emblem of Queensland, Australia. It's in good company next to modern emblems like koalas. Despite its name, I don't think Muttaburrasaurus would feel at home amongst the pastures of Muttaburra, Australia. Its teeth are much better suited for shearing through tougher plants than modern grasses. Just look at that! This sailback dinosaur is Ororanosaurus, an ornithopod related to both the thumb-spiked iguanodonts and the duck-billed hadrosaurs. It might be difficult to imagine having to haul around such an impressive structure on your back, but the spines of ornithischian dinosaurs were stiff and strong thanks to a criss-crossing lattice that supported their vertebrae made out of ossified tendons. Literally, tendons that turned into bone. Now that, my friend, is a beautiful dinosaur. Almost like a musical instrument, Parasaurolophus used their crest for long-distance communication. There's been simulations in the past that tried to reconstruct how they could have sounded, but nothing quite compares to the real thing. Wow, look at the horns on that one. This must be Nasuta ceratops, a ceratopsian best identified by its large, cow-like features. This massive creature weighs approximately 1.5 tons. To put that into perspective, a mature Spanish fighting bull can weigh up to 0.7 tons. Imagine setting that loose on the streets of Pamplona in Spain. Ah, a Pachyrhinosaurus. There are 3 species contained within the genus Pachyrhinosaurus, each with their own unique facial characteristics. While we don't know the primary purpose of these features, we can assume that the differences help an individual recognise members of its own species and help males impress the ladies. Protoceratops. This animal is one of the smaller species of Ceratopsians, living alongside deadly neighbours like the velociraptor. Oddly enough, this animal lacks a lot of the more complex facial features seen in larger family members, like a certain 3-horned celebrity. Now this little fella is a Psittacosaurus. Thanks to a number of recent findings, we were able to restore this creature to a high degree of genetic accuracy, right down to the quills and coloration in some of its species. With a head like that, we must be looking at Styracosaurus. The fossil record shows a bone bed of what was assumed to be a herd of these animals. But from what I've found, they're far more antisocial than expected. Perhaps a result of modern climatic conditions or irregularities in the genome. I'll leave that up for you to decide. Triceratops, one of the most recognisable and largest dinosaurs of its kind. Having lived alongside predators like the T-Rex, those giant horns start to make a lot more sense. Now, let's not mix the two together. At last, the woolly mammoth, ruler of the Ice Age, then ruler of none. There's nothing quite like it on the planet today. These majestic elephants are beautifully adapted for cold environments. Their key adaptations are small ears and a thick coat of fur. It's imperative we give them the best acclimation possible, or else we might have to give the herd a haircut. Although we often associate lions with Africa, the range of prehistoric cave lions spanned across multiple continents in the northern hemisphere. The American species of cave lion prefers the same types of habitat as its modern cousin, spacious savannas and grasslands. I wonder if they'd enjoy the same enrichment program as African lions do too. Oh boy, that's a big kitty, more commonly known as the saber-toothed tiger. Smilodon makes for a formidable predator. Despite the looks, Smilodon isn't closely related to any modern cats. It's more accurately called a Machaerodont, although I wouldn't worry too much about making the distinction. Just try to keep those saber teeth away from the guests. A cave bear's diet is far more vegetarian than its modern relatives, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. Even giant pandas, with their cute and cuddly reputations, have exceptionally strong bites for eating bamboo. Now imagine a herbivorous bear that weighs as much as, if not more than, an adult polar bear. The woolly rhino, or Coelodonta, is a relative to the modern-day Sumatran rhino. Not unlike modern species, this rhinoceros sports two horns on its face. A key difference to note, however, is its unusual flattened shape. That's truly unique among its peers. This giant beast is Elasmotherium, sometimes called the Siberian unicorn. Some paleontologists have suggested that Elasmotherium's head and hump were not muscular enough to carry a giant horn, arguing in favour of a lighter unicorn stump. However, those that we've created in the park have proved strong enough to carry any sized horn. The size really depends on which mutations were present in the prehistoric donor's DNA. Although it's much smaller than its cousin Paraceratherium, Geforce takes up just as much space in my heart. Its smaller size was likely an asset when trying to move around the dense jungle habitats it once called home. Though I use small relatively, because Geforce is still a massive animal by today's standards. My word, what a majestic creature. Megaloceros always takes my breath away. Each one of the male's antlers are almost as long as I'm tall. Just imagine having to balance two Nigels on your head. What you're looking at is a missing link. Well, kind of. While evolution doesn't work like a linear chain, transitional species, like Cynotherium here, help us understand changes that occur between related species with different characteristics. The position of Cynotherium's horn marks a transitional stage in the evolution from its nose-horned ancestors to Elasmotherium, its forehead-horned descendant.